put me in the lineup and let the bright light shine. There were 10 poor souls like me standing in that line. I knew I was a victim of someone's evil plan when a stool pigeon walked in and said, that's the man.
This is a film that's really interesting in context of Arcadon because this is a film that's about borders. It opens up on the border between U.S. and Mexico where a bomb goes off, cutting short a honeymoon for a Mexican police officer who enters an uneasy partnership with a U.S. policeman to find the culprit. But the suspect proves to be not nearly as threatening as the corruption and sleaze that the Mexican police officer and his new bride find themselves in.
Well, if Lady from Shanghai was kind of a funhouse mirror version of a noir, Touch of Evil is the real thing with a bullet. This is a movie that many consider kind of the end of the original film noir movement, after which similar movies would be called neo-noir. Of course, the term itself wouldn't become popularized till the 60s, and the French New Wave guys started to use it. But the elements are here. There is such a griminess to this film. There are such flawed characters and set pieces that are as dark as mainstream films got in those days. And Welles is back at the top of his game. One of the reasons for this is he finally has some money to work with because of the roundabout way he became director of this film.
That's right. The finest thing that Charlton Heston did this side of starring in Soylent Green, right?
Right. Welles was originally supposed to just act in this film as one of the many roles he'd used to pay the bills to make more of his own movies. But when the producers were searching for a director, Charlton Heston, who was involved in the project from the beginning, said, wait a minute, we've got Orson Welles here. If we need a director, why don't we let him do it? And one could imagine the producers hemming and hawing and go, well, but Charlton Heston was as big a star as you could be in 1958. So when he insisted that Welles get put in the director's seat, that's what happened. And Welles, always the self-destructive gent, basically rewarded Charlton's good works by making his character, the corrupt cop Hank Quinlan, the center of gravity of the film, and by far the most fascinating character in it, whereas it was developed as the starring vehicle for Heston.
It's kind of weird how a weird testament to Welles' directorial talent that he's actually able to take such a charismatic, iconic performer as Charlton Heston and make him out to be like a character actor in his own starring movie. That's a really nice trick if you really think about it.
Right. And in retrospect, Heston's performance has become a little controversial because he plays a Mexican police officer. He does not use an accent, and he is portrayed in brownface. I don't think he gives a bad performance in any way. I think it's one of his best. But Welles has found such a powerful role for himself that Heston can't help but be a bit diminished here. And it's really to the strength of the film.
Yes. The subject of the film moves away from its ostensible title, which is meant to be this loving couple who's trying to start their relationship, but they find themselves embroiled in this noirish mystery, and that is the touch of evil. But what Welles does is
moves it towards the original title of the book, which was Badge of Evil.
Yes. Yes, and I think he goes even further than that, maybe, to make the border of evil.
Mm-hmm.
In two senses of the word. For one, in a masterful shot, one of the most legendary uncut shots in film history, and a technical tour de force, you start with a bomb being put in a trunk, and you have a shot that transverses multiple times over the border, introduces multiple characters, and leads to at least 4 incredible moments of suspense all throughout minutes and minutes of continuous runtime that also is about the theme, right? How porous such a border could be.
Right. This is the most famous unbroken long shot of all time, and deservedly so, because it really follows Hitchcock's rule of suspense about knowing that the bomb is going to blow up before it does. Depending on the version of the film you watch, you might end up with 2 different takes on this opening scene. This is a surprise to nobody. The final cut, once again, was taken away from Mr. Welles, and as released theatrically, this became the opening credits sequence with all the written credits and a score overlaid on this scene. But Welles had put together a memo of how he actually wanted his film to play. And decades later, it was re-edited into a version that this memo suggested. And it is, if you look at the 2 scenes, Welles's preferred version is far more effective because the credits are gone, the score is gone. Instead, as the characters are moving along toward the border in this unbroken shot, we get ambient music from various sources. And because we really don't know when this bomb is going to blow up, you might suspect with the credits that it would blow up at the end of the credits. Now you don't know. Now Welles has got you where he wants you.
2 bits of credit need to be made. One is to Walter Murch, who helped re-edit this film into something closely approximating Orson Welles' wishes in 1998. And of all extra note is the memo that Welles gave to the studio is a gold mine, because I've been lucky enough to read it because it was also available on the special edition of Touch of Evil. And line by line, paragraph by paragraph, is full of just great insights as to what shot, what angle, camera move, what performance, and the reasons behind it. And you get to see an insight into Welles's genius as a filmmaker, and on a sentence-by-sentence basis. So it's a really wonderful resource, which will help you enhance for any viewing of Welles, in my opinion, if you just see the thought processes that went behind Touch of Evil, and by extension, you gotta feel that he had the same level of consideration to even his most inconsistent work. But that leads to the question of, why did the studio cut it the way they did? Why did they feel the need to do that? Part of the reason why I think they did to do that is obviously because they were expecting it's going to be a starring vehicle for Charlton Heston, and he seems to be shoved into the background. But also because this is a movie that may have started by taking the idea of Mexico as this sinister other location, but it draws us in and puts us as an audience in this world. This is a film that is swimming in disrepute, in sleaze, in things that are just not right. In fact, in a weird way, Heston's casting as a Mexican and the way his portrayal doesn't jibe with his iconic way people expect of him becomes a weird asset to the movie. It's because it's part of the sense that things are wrong. And it's also the same way that how his wife, played by Janet Leigh, who to me always seemed to have this level of antsiness upon the kind of sexuality that is a part of her character. The travails that she goes through in the movie are of many different levels of disrepute, from being peeped on to being given like a drug overdose.
Right, and we should talk about that sequence because it's probably one of the most shocking sequences an audience in 1958 would have witnessed. Basically, Charlton Heston, realizing that he and his wife are in danger, has sent his wife out of town into a deserted motel in the middle of nowhere. And in a scene that seems to predict Janet Leigh's even more famous role in Psycho, you end up with a very squirrely hotel clerk played by Dennis Weaver, who's pretty much chewing the scenery. And then this gang of bikers kind of descends on her, led by Mercedes McCambridge in complete campy mode, doing this butch lesbian bit.
Yeah.
And in 1958, this was some crazy shit.
That's exactly right. Not a thing that any studio would have been expecting. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad you brought up the Psycho reference, because I think Touch of Evil and Psycho are so kind of intrinsically related. I mean, depending upon your perspective, you could say that the suspense that Touch of Evil was honed to a fine point in Psycho, mm-hmm. which also, traffics in disrepute and is pretty much lurid in nearly every particular situation in it. But I kind of feel that where Psycho, it's all done for effect, all done to shock an audience, all done to basically provide a thrilling experience that will just maybe push you off balance and just go, wow, wasn't that a crazy ride that we were on? Mm-hmm. And whereas Touch of Evil pushes you, but there's some pulpy, dark heart underneath all this suspense and all this luridness and all this disrepute. There's some kind of feeling that I get when I see Out of Touch of Evil, and I just feel from the texture of the film and the imagery that there is not just a darkness to it, but not a thrill of darkness, but a heart of darkness to it.
Well, I'd suggest, because I agree with you, and I felt that too, that we can give credit to Marlene Dietrich's character, who apparently knew him way back when. He may have been a good man. From her perspective, she can see that good man from long ago. We can't see him. We see Quinlan as an utterly disgusting beast, and Welles plays that up. Already Welles had gotten heavy by this point, but he makes himself even heavier with this giant fat suit and this makeup to exaggerate his facial features, and the way he shoots himself from unflattering angles and sweaty. And he is a man already broken by the time we see him, and we might just see this negative aspect. But Marlene Dietrich, in a small but touching performance, gives us a hint of this past that we don't see.
That's true. That's a case where, her iconic presence is a great counter to what Welles is doing, where Welles is not so much as an icon, but one of the greatest visual representations of corruption of ideals that I think has ever been really shown in motion pictures. For however sleazy are Quinlan's methods, he does find a suspect, and he does know exactly the right buttons and methods to get him arrested. And part of the reason for his fall is, in fact, that the system and the environment had let him down and let a guilty person go free.
The other thing that leads to his fall is a theme that Welles will come back to again and again, which is the betrayal by a friend. We saw this in Kane.
Right.
We're going to see this again in the next movie we talk about. But even though Quinlan's underling, who he considers a friend, is more of a minor character, when he is stabbed in the back by him, the hurt he feels by this friendship betrayal is palpable.
That's true. And I need to add that betrayal of a friendship is something also very much on the mind of the Orson Welles film The Third Man.
Yes.
But Wells's choices to like make him just grosser and sweatier just shows just how he's such a great epitome of corruption. And this is in fact the kind of gross creature that would inhabit this kind of landscape. It is this sense of thing that's lost that makes it, when he does get betrayed, you even feel for him, despite the fact of the despicable things he's already done.
And it's a tribute to his direction, how this is the character, and no, his direction and his acting.
Yes.
How this is the character we gravitate towards. When we have Charlton Heston there doing fine as the righteous cop, but Welles knows that there's this depth here that he can bring to this guy that is constantly going to be catching our eye.
He uses his framing and his bulk within the frame to like just really wonderful effect in another masterful sequence halfway through where they effectively force a confession out of the culprit. And it's done as this great psychological before and after, where the ostensible real police work, quote unquote, is happening in the living room, but what's really going on is this muttered machinations that go on in the bathroom. And I believe it's even done in one single take as the camera moves in from the police procedure for the public in one side, and then the real malfeasance and operation of the police in the bathroom side, and it moves back and forth.
Welles has said that this is the scene he's most proud of in the film because the one take shot at the beginning of the movie is meant to call attention to itself. You can't not notice that he's doing a one take thing. But most people, I would say, if they are watching this film for the first time casually, may not realize just how long this take is going on. Now, there is an interruption in the middle where Charlton Heston goes outside to talk to his wife. But aside from this one cut, this scene lasts 12 minutes.
Right, and that ties in about how, in a way, Charlton Heston's character is kind of an imposition on the machinations of Quinlan.
Well, he's also made useless by the film because the suspect thinks that Heston, and we think Heston, will come in and save the day due to his heroic stature, but Heston kind of lets things play out. Now, by the end of it, it's Quinlan's corruption is revealed to him, and that sets in motion Heston's motivation to take Quinlan down. But he doesn't take action right then and there. He does confront him, and Welles, and another wonderful bit of performance, is able to summon up this outrage where he threatens to quit because his honor has been so besmirched. But in this scene, at least, Heston is not able to take any palpable action to right this wrong that he sees.
It does lead to that irony that, like, the thing that doesn't get Quinlan down is a sense of justice, or maybe necessarily even fairness, but it just is steeped in betrayal.
Right,
you
right.
know? It's a kind of pre-Chinatown sense of things do not go the way morals and ethics expected to, or people would like to in this particular kind of environment.
Well,
they almost can't, right?
That's what makes this such a textbook noir, is because even without the femme fatale and without some of the other elements we come to expect from film noir, the moral ambiguity is dialed up to 11 here.
Yes. And obviously, noirs have trafficked in caricatures and in grotesques ever since Gutman in The Maltese Falcon. Mm-hmm. But unlike Gutman, the excessive, sweaty bulk and the skittishness of the hotel owner and the antsiness of lay sexuality and the sense of, confusion of the Mexican police officer played by Heston, they all, to me, have this great meaning. They seem to flow so naturally from the environment of things are so wrong that dropping any normal person would go and warp them. Even having Marlene Dietrich play a brothel owner wearing this babushka kind of situation and having these gypsy outfit is so much of the movie adds to this incongruity, and it's also is extended in scene after scene, like when Heston is driving and discussing the case. It's this also another continuous shot that they appear to be riding through these incredibly narrow alleyways at what looks to be 90 miles an hour while having a scene, and you're just you may not notice it when you watch, but you feel just the level of things being so close to being out of control in it, So, I mean, this is maybe one of my favorite noirs for that very reason, that it takes these feelings and just embodies it in just making the characters relate to that kind of twisted environment in a way that does honor to both the people and the environment.
For anyone who kind of views Wells's career as beginning and ending with Citizen Kane, we enter another phase here where he's once again just provided us with one of the great classics.